All right. Hey there. What's going on, everybody? Just after 11 a.m. Central Standard Time here on Boom, Boom, Boom Wednesday, the 13th of November, 2024. Bitcoin is on this escalator up, right? So right now, so far, so good. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how the miners have been ripping, guys, and the fact that some people are still asking, why are miners underperforming when they're not? They're not. Monster ETF inflows coming in. I know Andrew's going to have a lot to say about that, especially with IBIT. Man, oh man, just cleaning up. So hopefully you guys are ready to do this. Do me a favor before we get going. Hit the thumbs up, hit the like, hit the subscribe, follow wherever you're seeing us simulcasting here across multiple platforms. And be sure to follow Tillman at TexasOL61 there on X, and he's pretty excited that I got it correct the first time out. And then Andrew, of course, at AP_abacus there. And, of course, myself at TexasWest Capital, all right? So let's bring up the gentleman here. How are you guys doing today? My God, I've called you gentlemen twice this morning. I don't know what's up.
Hey, a third time's the charm. Let's keep it rolling.
Or three strikes and you're out. I don't know, man.
We're having a good day today. I mean, it's nothing like waking up to overnight pumps, right?
Yeah, and the pump that's continued for a week now, you know.
It's hilarious. I mean, every time that there's even a small dip, like we went from 93.5 down to like 91.7, and it just immediately got devoured, back up to 93 again. And that's been happening effectively for the last, let's call it, what's today, Wednesday? So for the last 8 days, ever since the election and the middle of the evening of the election, when we moved from 68 to 72 to 75, it hasn't stopped. And the price action. So yesterday, 2 days ago, we moved, in a material way, let's call it 11%, right? But I was more impressed with yesterday's price action than I was the 11% day, because yesterday's price action moved from -4 to -3 to -1 to even to +1, +2, +3, right? And my goodness, just absolutely crushing. And it's demand, it's absolute demand. So people,
I think it's more than just demand. I think there was such a totter that we were on regarding the election and the outcome. I mean, if you think about, one side was so pro crypto and so pro Bitcoin that he was at the Bitcoin conference talking on stage. And the other side has literally created task force to specifically focus on making it as hard as possible. Even companies, and I'm not a XRP believer, but even companies like Ripple, who have tried to work with regulators over the course of their history, for them to be slaughtered publicly like they were. It's just it's I think it's a reaction in the price to what we think is going to happen over the next 4 years as it relates to price. And what's so powerful about this movement is, I've got lots of friends that are in crypto, obviously, and I talk to them, and you're like, hey, when are you thinking about starting to offload, or starting to lighten your load a little bit? And the common thread amongst every one of them is, oh, we've just begun. I'm looking at a 230 to 300 price target, so I'll probably start liquidating some of my bags at 175. Well, how quickly we go from where we are now to what people truly in their hearts believe the price of Bitcoin should be on the risk-adjusted basis, because the risk is off the table now, right? Not only is the risk off the table, but now we have an administration that's coming out with not a task force to counteract crypto, but a task force to be pro-crypto and help propagate it and create a national reserve fund. Like it's such a flip-flop on the teeter-totter it's no wonder we're having this type of a price explosion. I mean, it's no different than what we've seen Tesla be the benefit of in administrations being pro EV, right? It's like, yeah, pro EV, great, okay, pump it up another $100 billion in eval. And so we're on the cusp of a 4-year run that I don't think, like, deep in people's hearts, even if you're new to crypto or you're old to crypto, this one feels different. This one, I don't think people are going to get the weak knees that they have in the past and dump. I don't think even people believe we're going to see an 80% drawdown anymore. I don't.
Yeah.
No. Bernstein put out a note yesterday that basically was, whatever you thought about crypto, forget it. Just buy everything. Literally, that was in the headline. Buy everything. And again, they live in a world, right? That high-level global investment bank, research arms, all that stuff. They live in an ecosystem and, kind of in a silo where they know stuff way before everybody else knows stuff. So what happens this morning? BlackRock announces on their BUIDL platform, they're building on Polygon, Aptos, Avalanche, some other Optimus Prime, mainnet, weird stuff I've never even heard of, and something else, right?
And remember a conversation we had on this show months ago. And do you remember when we were talking about how he said that he wanted to tokenize everything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how it begged the question, which one's he going to pick? What smart contract wins that war? And you have to, at that point, and we said this months ago, he's going to have to bet on every horse and see which one wins. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to bet on every dadgum horse in the stable. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah. So you have, and then on top of that, I had a note out in August that I had talked to some BlackRock folks. And when I say BlackRock folks, people that are adjacent legally to BlackRock, wink, wink, Skybridge, who was their initial seed investor in the IBIT product, which, by the way, what a hell of a trade that was. So Scaramucci and his boys put in like $200 million to effectively be the first folks into IBIT, right?
Yeah.
So their point is that BlackRock expected by year end to have, let's call it $40 to $50 billion in total AUM in their IBIT product. Well, when I put that out, they didn't even have 20 billion at the time.
Yep.
Guess what number they surpassed yesterday? $40 billion.
And what you say, that was just a week after they hit 30 billion is what you said, right?
In less than 1 year, they're at 40 billion, right? So they're going to get to 50 billion. That's going to happen. I mean, just wildly.
Do you know what this reminds me of? There's an analogy I can give you. I play poker a lot, and sometimes when you're playing tournament poker, the buy-in can be relatively small on an individual basis. So let's call it, a couple $1,000. And but if you start knocking through the tables and you get to the final table, ninth place can win 60,000, 50,000, so some really decent money. And so the chip stack that you've got in front of you looks ridiculous compared to your buy-in, right? And you're at this table. Well, then you realize that there's bigger and bigger tables. And so all of the Bitcoin community has now found themselves at the bigger table. They're playing. We've got nation states, and listen, this cannot be overlooked. What I want to ask both of you: what do you both think the probability is that the U.S. takes a different stance in terms of selling the Bitcoin we already have, and B, accumulating more Bitcoin to own on our quote federal balance sheet? What do y'all think the probability of that is?
So I think it's probably pretty high at this point. With Trump getting in there, if Trump hadn't won, we'd definitely be looking at the other way, right?
I would agree, but just thinking about that, what the numbers they're talking about are 1 million Bitcoin, 5%, which is what we quote hold in gold reserves. If that's the case, What do you think other countries are doing right now? Front running it. Like, that's the simplest equation to making money that's ever existed on the face of the earth. If the US government, who can print fake paper money, is going to be able to take that paper money and buy Bitcoin with it, and they're planning on buying 5% of the available reserve, that's going to probably drive the price up over a pretty long period of time. And, the question then becomes, okay, how quickly can the other states accumulate it? How quickly can the corporations accumulate it before that takes place? And that's what I think we see right now in this pump. And price discovery makes fools out of everyone. I mean,
FiboSwanny's bringing up the place 5% over 5 years, not right away for those that haven't been following exactly. It's not they're going to go buy 1 million right off, but 200,000 Bitcoin a year for the next 5 years. But to Tillman's point, if you're states, if you're companies, if you're whatever, and that's what's coming. I mean, you want to jump in. You're smaller, you're nimbler. You want to jump in there before the U.S. gets in there.
Well, and more importantly, you want to create. So if I know the government's going to be buying Bitcoin, and I know they don't care when they buy it, just like Germany didn't care when they sold it, right? So if I know they're going to pay for it whenever, what do I want when they buy it? I want the price to be as high as possible. I want to drive the price to the moon. If the government starts buying Bitcoin, what do we want? Them buying our bags at where? At record highs. That's the whole game. Like, that's literally 101. So if you're a big corporation, if you're other countries, what do you do now? You accumulate bags so that when the government starts buying it and that price starts to appreciate, you have liquidity to sell those bags into. And then we find ourselves at the end of those two stages. I don't even know where, but I think we're going to all be surprised is, I guess, the point. And
don't, make no mistake, folks. We've said it time and time again on here. There are sellers at all levels, guys. There are forced sellers and there are, other sellers, but there's always going to be sellers. So don't just think, oh my God, it's all going to get eaten up and nobody's going to be selling. There's always going to be sellers out there at some point. But the question is, how many, where are those sellers coming in terms of buying? And this is, to Tillman's point, I think is great, which is, they're going to want to get in sooner than the definitive that they know the big money coming in. They're doing that with the government. And that way, when they do exit, it's going to be, at a much, much higher price. And so, I mean, I think I don't see a lose in all of this.
Well, there's difference. There's a difference, though. In the past formula, there's always been speculative demand and speculative supply.
Yeah.
We don't have just speculative demand now. We have systemic demand. We have systematic demand. We have demand that's going to be rolled in, that's not consciously deciding to buy Bitcoin today because it's a good price and they think they're going to be able to scalp it 2 months from now for a better price. That's not a lot of the volume that we're seeing today. A lot of the volume that we're seeing today are registered investment advisors talking to their highest net worth clients, and they're going, we should hedge. We need exposure to this. And that is not a short-term play. That is an extremely long-term play. And the more the world sees that demand come online, the more this equation is going to get lopsided towards the buy side. Because if you look at, for example, equities have 1% to 2% of daily volume. That's just mindless 401k purchases behind the scenes. Like, that's really hard to overcome from a seller's perspective. It may not be hard to overcome to drive the markets down on any given day, but it's hard to overcome over a 6-month period. That's why the markets go up, right? Inflation and constant buying. Well, we're just entering that phase in Bitcoin. So the question now is really how fast does it escalate? And do we have a gamma squeeze, essentially? Do we have a point where, like, how big's the market's $1.7 trillion right now?
Yeah.
Gold's 11 trillion.
Yeah.
So we have a 10x from here to get to gold, basically, or not quite, but it's 6x. So if we're going to 6x from here to get to gold, which I don't think any of us think, gold's a superior asset to Bitcoin. So if we're going to get there, right, a 6x is money that hedge funds, it's on the verge of the biggest, like hedge funds have this idea of 10xing their money. That's literally what they dream of every single day. So if you can bake in a guaranteed 6x and you can do it with a ton of liquidity and volume and capital, that's a game that is going to draw a lot of people to the party. And I think we've entered a poker level or a poker table where we may be going, oh God, we've gone up $30,000 in the last 30 days. Isn't that incredible? And the big boys are going like, yeah, I raise you another 50,000, and they don't care. It's nothing to them. We're playing with pennies as it pertains to their markets.
Yeah. Question here says, does the Trump admin get rid of cap gains on Bitcoin? Well, the only one that can do that is going to be the Congress. Congress is the only one that's going to get out there and do that. Where I think could say, okay, no tax on that, or the IRS could say it. The IRS is not going to say that. But we sit here and we talk a lot about this big back and forth we've had between the CFTC and the SEC as far as what Bitcoin and crypto assets are. Honestly, guys, call your freaking representative. Tell them to get out there and make a determination in Congress already. For now, they're fighting over it. And then you got the IRS saying, oh, it's property, so we're cap gains and all this. Congress just needs to go out there and say, listen, this is what we're going to view it as. This is how it's going to work. And all of a sudden, all that is settled. I mean, it really is as simple as that. So if we want to blame anybody at this point, we really should kind of lean on Congress about, listen, y'all get your shit together because we're getting tired of the fighting between all the little agencies there.
I think Elon with the whole efficiency czar authority that he's going to possess is, I think one of the first things he's going to look at is the IRS. And our tax code is insanely complicated, and it's incredibly, it's no different than using cash for everything. It has a ton of friction, tons of lag, tons of errors, tons of capital wasted on manpower. So you just think about the losses that we're incurring by having this archaic system. I personally believe Elon is way smarter than that, and he's going to come in and say flat tax on every sales item in America other than groceries, gas, and he'll exclude certain items, and everything else will have like a 35% tax on it. And certain items, it's like a cigarette tax. You want to buy a Rolls Royce? Great. You're going to pay a third of it to the government. And that's okay, because then you get to fire your CPAs and your accountants. You don't have to keep track of anything. Yeah. There's no income tax anymore. It's all, every time you buy something at the register, you are settled with the government, period. Yeah. And think about it. That's what blockchain is. Instant settlement. That's what we all desire, is finality as quickly as possible.
Well, so it's like that meme that's out there, right? It's like, the government give us the money that you owe us. Well, can you tell me how much I owe you? No, we can't. Yeah. Well, can you help me figure it out? No, we can't. Well, this is the number I came up with. Is this right? We don't know.
Well, and hey, can you assign
wrong? Well, if I get this wrong, you go to jail. What are you talking about?
Hey, these days it's worse than that. Can you assign an agent to me? Yes, in 11 months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. What was Phil saying? We can dream of only a consumption tax. I don't think people really understand how much sense that really makes. I mean, all the complaints go, oh, the rich people have all this money and they're spending all this money on this and that and whatever. But at the end of the day, okay, so if you want to affect that, then guess what? Make it a consumption tax. That way you kind of really decide, do I want this? Do I really want to spend the money on this? Would it maybe be better for me to buy Bitcoin than to buy a new car this year?
Well,
know,
remember, the United States was effectively founded on the fact that we were pissed off about a 2% tax on tea that was coming from a boat. That was 2% on tea. We're now at a point where if you add all the taxes up together, sales tax, taxes in your state, taxes federally, if you own a business, taxes there, payroll, all that stuff, you're at minimum 50%. Right?
And not even that, but those same dollars are taxed over and over. You get dollar, you're taxed on it, all those different ways. And then you pay Tillman for something, and he's now, you're paying taxes on that to pay Tillman, and Tillman's now paying taxes on whatever. I get that. Guess what? We're doing the same thing. It's ridiculous how much we're paying in taxes.
Well, the Smashing Pumpkins said it best. The world is a vampire sent to drain. And that's all it does. It just drains every transaction. And then and then at the retail level, the credit card company taxes you on all the transactions. Like there's money flying out of the local economy at an exacerbated rate based upon the fees and the taxes that are associated with transactions. And that can be changed overnight. It's just not that it's complicated of a problem. We've made it that complicated because it allows us a lot of power. And it's created jobs and industries and all those things. It's time to cut the fat. It's time to get the efficient systems in place and realize a frictionless economy. Think about that. It's like, can you imagine what an employee will think when payroll taxes are put back into their paycheck?
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. I mean, holy shit, and so, here's the the crazy thing. So price is rallying, and that's great. And we all like price rallying because price gets other people interested, right? I mean, at the end of the day, even if you're in Bitcoin for the tech, even if that's solely you, it's okay. But you want price to go up because price brings other people in, right?
Well, I'll give a shout out to Haley Lennon. She said it best yesterday in a tweet. She said, yes, we're in it for the tech, but the price validates participation.
There you
go. We love seeing new people participate. So it validates our life work when other people come into the party and they go, man, y'all done a great job here. I want to be a part of it. This is awesome.
Yeah, price separates the pretenders from the players, right? I mean, that's where we get to. And so when we look at this, we go, okay, well, price is up here now, 90, what is it right now? 92.4? Yeah, something like that. And so I've seen quite a bit, it seems like lately online. I've seen people like, okay, well, why are miners underperforming? And so just right here before the show, I kind of jumped on there real quick. I started looking. These miners since September 6th, we're not even going back to the August 5th Bitcoin low, because most of the miners, their low was like around the 6th, or it came in after the 6th. So even if you're looking at Riot, you're looking at Mar, you're looking at CLSK, you're looking at Wolf, you're looking at Iron, you're looking at BTBT, you're looking at Cores, you're looking at Cypher. I'm not going to say right and rattle them all off, but you're looking at them, and like the lowest of them, generally speaking, are around 100%. Some of them up to 200% since that September 6th. Bitcoin's up about 77% since then, up about 90% since August 5th. So,
I think they're comparing it to MicroStrategies. And I think their leverage plays on Bitcoin. They're going to outperform Bitcoin. And they have. I don't know how anybody could. I guess it's against what you're comparing it to, and I can only think of one thing you could compare the mining stocks to that would make them look like dogs, and it's MicroStrategy, or Nvidia maybe, but.
But even Coinbase, the last week, Coinbase is up 109% or something. I mean, absolutely insane.
Don't get me started on Coinbase. I have a real bone to pick right now.
Are you talking about what you tweeted out there about the fees?
Hell yeah, I'm talking about that. That pissed me off. It's not the fees, man. I got but listen, people rung me up on Twitter about this, and I welcome the argument. I will scream this till this is a hill I will die on, okay? Fees on a $400 buy. We're just under $8. Not bad. Not complaining about that. And I don't even care if they were $30 because they have been in the past, right?
Yeah.
You go to a DEX and they're $50, right? I'm okay with stated fees, whatever they are, being high. What I'm not okay with is an exchange telling me at the time of confirmation of buy that the frickin' price of Bitcoin is $1,000 higher than the spot price really is. That is price manipulation. That's total horse crap. And the layperson that's not me would just click confirm thinking that they're buying Bitcoin going, oh, I'm only spending $8 in fees. I'm getting a good buy. No, you're a freaking 12% behind your buy price in profits, and you're a loser for the next 2 months if Bitcoin's not going on parabolic like it is. Like that's total crap to me. And the fact that they can say Bitcoin price, when I bought that Bitcoin, it was 89.5. They charged me 90,005. They charged me $972 above spot price for the Bitcoin purchase that I bought. Now, tell me that's not good. That's not consumer protection, man. Should I have to go at the time of confirmation of a buy and check 5 other market prices to make sure that they're not gouging me on the price? Or should I just have to shop the fees? I should just have to shop the fees, for God's sakes. Like, we should all in a modern society, in a global market like Bitcoin is, should be able to decide plus or minus 1% accuracy what the damn price of Bitcoin is. Like that pisses me off to the nth degree. And there's no excuse for it from Coinbase. I don't care what they have to say. And I don't care what anybody says about, like, yeah, well, you can do Coinbase Pro. You can, that's how you're welcoming the new people into crypto. Welcome to the 12% gouge in your face. No, thank you.
I wonder if that's the same thing on Coinbase One, or Coinbase Pro, or whatever the heck they call it now. Over the last few years, they've changed it so many times. You got to pay that monthly fee.
You've got to figure out what those levels are. And again, if you're new to Bitcoin, new to crypto at all, you have no idea how to figure that out. You're not. Nobody's told you, hey, there's different levels of price on Coinbase based on the level you decide to engage with their platform. Nobody's having that conversation with you.
Well, in what world and in what other market does that exist? What other market is there? A place where I can accidentally buy the Dow $1,000 higher than it is? No, there is no market that exists like that, because that's horse crap is what it is. And Coinbase is horse crap, in my opinion, for doing it. I'd rather them charge me a 5% fee and give me an accurate quote. That's the truth. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, one has to wonder what they're doing with that float, right?
You better believe one has to wonder it. In fact, one has to wonder who you're buying the Bitcoin from.
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, maybe you're buying it from Coinbase and they've decided, oh, well, our Bitcoin's worth more than everyone else's, so you're going to pay a premium. Like, God only knows, but it's horse crap.
So given that Tillman and I are business partners and best friends, right? I'm very aware when his voice goes an octave or level 2, I know, that there's a serious to it, and there's. Well,
you want to know why? Yeah. Because Bitcoin has done so much for me. I love it. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be misrepresented as a horse crap flim flam, gouge the customer in the eye carnival show is what pisses me off. And to have the widest on ramp that exists on the face.
Oh, can't hear you.
Where more people buy Bitcoin than anywhere else. And one would argue that they're the least sophisticated of all the buyers. That's the community we want to let Coinbase just run over and run up and down on the road.
Well, it's like the PayPal effect, right? Like everybody in the universe uses PayPal. It's kind of the base layer of app-based payment systems, and they're terrible, right? But because they're so big and of scale, they don't have any meaningful reason to adjust. Coinbase has probably nearly 200 million customers at this point, right? So, the question then becomes, at what point do they have to make adjustments because it's going to meaningfully, hurt their business?
Well, and how come they got the golden scepter that parted all of the regulatory seas and allowed them to sell dog with hat to millions of people and still get away with charging these types of fees for a legitimate commodity like Bitcoin? That's where the problem really starts getting fishy for me, is that they have the lack of regulatory clarity in the US has set up a system that have allowed them to become a monopoly, and now they're taking full advantage of that. Like that's a whole nother bigger fish to fry, and I'm hoping this next administration is going to clean it up and put some competition in there, because let me put it in perspective. Let's say I'm not even like the little old lady who doesn't know what the price of Bitcoin is, and I click confirm. Let's say I'm somewhat savvy of a guy, and I'm trying to buy Bitcoin because I'm looking at the price and it's going parabolic and it's going crazy up, right? And I rush into my Coinbase app and I'm like, hey, I want to buy some Bitcoin. Boom, buy. And then it quotes me a price that's at 90,585. And in my mind, I'm thinking, holy crap, since the time that I last checked the price and the time that I have the confirmation page up, it's gone up $1,000. And it actually induces me to buy it. It actually makes me go, holy crap, the train's leaving faster than I thought it was. And then I click confirm, and then I go, oh, why is the price $1,000 lower? That's the most rude. That's the worst experience that you could ever give somebody on the front end of their Bitcoin buy. Like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, and Voody's saying, you guys not using Coinbase Advanced, it's assigned to spot. So, well, my thought is, even if it is, okay, that's great, but why do they get to do this other thing to those not using Coinbase Advanced? I mean, are you, if you don't go pay the Coinbase Advanced fee, are you the pleb that has to go out there and pay your homage? You've got to pay extra penance to the gifter of the BTC? I mean,
well, even if that's the case, reflect it in a fee and not in the manipulated price of Bitcoin. That is a lie. To tell me that the price of Bitcoin is 90,565 and there's not another damn market on the planet that's reflecting that price, that's a lie. That's misrepresenting the price of Bitcoin. Because if we can't agree on the price of spot Bitcoin, and if they're not advertising in bold red letters on that finality page, you are not buying spot Bitcoin, but rather you're buying Bitcoin at some inflated price that we've determined based upon how stupid you are. Like, if they want to write that on the page, then I'll be happy with it. But they don't write that on the page. To the contrary, they make you think that it's the spot price of Bitcoin. In fact, you would have no indication that it's not the price of Bitcoin because it says Bitcoin price.
Yeah. So Andrew, obviously you're deep in the ETFs and you got a lot of connections in that world and whatnot. So we mentioned earlier that BlackRock was looking to get, that what 40 or 50 billion by the end of the year. Here we are at 40 billion, a month and a half out. What do you think, man? What do you think we're going to do by the end of the year?
Well, I think we'll press above 50 probably. Maybe not meaningfully beyond that, because it's, what is it, November, whatever the day is. It's the middle of November, right? So let's call it, we've got 30 actually real days left in the year from a business standpoint, because people shut it down for about a week for Thanksgiving, and then about halfway through December, they shut it down. So, probably 55 billion. We're going to have 5 billion in IBET inflows just this week.
That's crazy.
Just this week.
Crazy.
So yeah, it's there are it's not going to slow down. There's no reason for it to slow down, and this price attracts more and more folks. And I've said for a long time, There's no downside narrative for Bitcoin. That's more true than it ever has been today. And then on top of that, there is no doubt that there is a catch-up trade happening right now. If you manage money for anybody in a meaningful way that has 10 million, 50 million, whatever the number is long, whether you're a Goldman guy, Morgan Stanley guy, UBS guy, if you have not recommended or have inside of their portfolio IBIT's product, they're going to ask you why, because that product is up 100% or more since it was launched for this year. So what are you doing? Why are we not in it? And if you don't give them a good answer, they're going to move their money somewhere else. And advisors are, nothing strikes fear into them other than moving money, ACATing money to another account that's not going to be in their control. So all of that is happening all at once. And that's where we are. I think we're at 50 to 55 billion. So I think that's where we are.
And more tools. We've built a Bitcoin algorithm that makes it very easy to set a budget for how much Bitcoin you want to buy, and it takes care of the schedule of purchasing and works in the background essentially to accumulate that stack of BTC over a long period of time, short period of time, aggressive, not aggressive, completely up to the user. And so as tools become available for institutions to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet that make it easy to set a purchasing schedule, forget about it, and have a portion of their net profits being diverted into that asset class, I think we're going to see it become more and more and more utilized as a differentiator. A company, what are you more likely to invest in? A company that's kicking butt in the real world and has Bitcoin on their balance sheet, or a company that's just kicking butt in the real world? Now I think there's a strong case to be made for you wanting the former rather than the latter. I think the ETFs, I think right now we're still in the stage where all of the volume in the ETF are people who have conviction about Bitcoin, who are forcing people to buy it for them. That is the vast majority of it. We are going to see, and we are starting to see the tide turn where, like what Andrew said, it's going to have to be included, because if you don't have it included, again, asset manager that includes Bitcoin in their strategy versus asset manager that doesn't, which one do you choose? Pretty easy choice.
Yeah, I think two things there. First thing, I think the product that you guys got that you're going to be launching November 18th, the IIA Algo, yes. Anyway, their Bitcoin Algo. But I think it's a great thing, even if you're a trader, right? Because I've been a big proponent about, listen, even though I trade, I have a bag of Bitcoin, right? And I add to that, and I don't touch that. And I think it's, I think it's really important you do that. Had you been doing that during, say, the 8 months we were going sideways, and even if you were trading kind of poorly as it broke out, you would still have that going up. So I think that product is a great thing, even for traders that are out there trading, as like a secondary thing, even if it's, because some people just want to trade, right? But
well, let me wet your whistle a little bit before the launch. This algo is going to let you set up instances. And the instances are buying instances. So let's say we're in a real flat period of the market where it's a bottoming, and I really have a lot of conviction that I want to accumulate a lot. Well, I can set an instance that says buy $1,000 of Bitcoin every hour for the next 4 weeks, and I can say buy this much Bitcoin, 100 grand, 200, whatever it is, over this period of time, and it's going to look for opportunities to buy and accumulate that in a very systematic, very spread out way, so that you're getting the widest sample to cost entry that you possibly can, the best entry price. So it's this disciplined approach. Well, let's say I also want to accumulate Bitcoin out of my paycheck. And let's say I have an excess of X number of dollars that I want to put into, quote, my Bitcoin savings account. Well, I can create a separate instance for that. And I can have both of them running at the same time. And I can have a third instance running that's I sold my car and I have 25,000 of cash that I want to put into Bitcoin, and I can say I want to accumulate that 25,000 over this schedule period, and I can have all three of those running at the same time. So I can literally fit a purchasing schedule for not only my trading desires, like the quick accumulation, because I think there's a price bump coming, or I can also just do it for savings purposes or for a risk diversification from a capital placement perspective, and all of the above. It's very, very diverse.
Well, I do that Monday spaces with Gary Cardone and Samuel Arms, and so Grant showed up. Grant Cardone, Gary's twin brother. For those of you that don't know, I guess maybe you're living know who he is. I guess you're living under a rock. Lord knows he's everywhere online. But Grant, multi-billion-dollar real estate portfolio, owns like 7 or 8 companies, 10 companies, something like that. Revenue, hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So Gary, is very much the Bitcoin bull. Grant is very much the real estate guy. And so Gary has been working on Grant over the last few years to buy into some Bitcoin. And so Grant came on and was talking about that on Monday's show. And I think I bring this up because I think what he said is really the epitome of what a lot of people are saying now that we've had this breakout and this rally up, which is, he says, I bought some, in the 30,000s there, whatever, but damn it, I wish I had bought more. I wish I wasn't wrong. So he says, he was wrong about what he believed Bitcoin was going to do. And I think a lot of people are feeling that, especially with the breakout now through the all-time high and how quickly it's rallied up here tonight.
I think Dave Portnoy started his Davey Day Trader stream yesterday talking about the fact that I screwed up. I missed Bitcoin. I wanted to buy it at 40, but it moved a little bit above 40. And I just told the guys who were going to do it for me, well, just wait till it's 40. Never went back under 40 again. And here we are. So I screwed up. I missed it. And I'll tell you, the theme of our the story that we're going to tell with our Bitcoin algorithm and the marketing that we're going to do, the message that we're going to send is, remember the first time you thought to yourself, I should have bought Bitcoin. When was that? 2015, 2018, 19, 21, whatever it happened to be. Our algorithm is going to give you the chance to never have that should have ever again. You're going to be able to set up different instances that can buy Bitcoin on your behalf every minute, every day, every month, every week, every 10 hours, whatever you want it to do, so that you never have that should have moment again, ever again. And so we're going to talk to people in ways where there are seminal moments with, sort of the paragons and legends of Bitcoin itself, from a personality standpoint, that it made important, statements about Bitcoin, and we're going to put a timestamp on that statement. Said this was a moment where we all should have bought in Bitcoin, but not all of us did. Never have that should have moment ever again.
Well, and let me give you a nerd's perspective on this. Everything in life is a math problem. When you have a denominator that's fixed, 21 million, right? And time is not fixed. It's always going forward. You have a natural inflationary environment. The price of Bitcoin has to go up because the denominator can't go up. And so if you believe in that math, the question is not when you bought. The question is, why are you not buying right now? And the question that Dave needs to ask himself, I always mess up his last name.
Portnoy.
Dave needs to ask himself this question: why am I trying to rifle shot my entries? That's what cost him. Why instead of shooting one bullet, why didn't I have a machine gun? Why didn't I separate my shots and just fire bullets every day at smaller increments? That's what this algo allows people to do. And it allows people to do it without the complexity and the burden of doing it, because it's a lot easier to tell somebody, hey, you should buy Bitcoin every day. Daily grind of buying Bitcoin, that's a big pain in the butt, and so especially when you've got all the other stuff going on, and the practicality of that doesn't play out. People don't do it, is the point. So yeah, we're excited about it. It doesn't matter when you get into Bitcoin, because I truly believe at this pace, we're going to be measuring the price of Bitcoin in sats eventually, not in whole Bitcoins.
That's why they're there, right?
Yep.
Hey, listen, we got a question actually from a couple of weeks ago that I didn't get with y'all with, but figure we'll ask it here real quick. Said, have any of you come across banks and or insurance companies that are developing an insurance product where an individual and or business entity can leverage their Bitcoin holdings to manage their current property and casualty exposures rather than just pay premiums year after year?
There's a lot of innovative things that are happening on that front, and they can all be done and solved. I've actually written a captive insurance policy before myself around the savings delta, the energy efficiency delta that can be achieved by repurposing mining heat into a building, and what that economic value is and insuring against it. The problem is not that. The problem is custody. Until the banks get the right to custody your Bitcoin, you can't do any of that fun stuff. That's what we've been talking about over the last, couple of months that pertains to banking and Bitcoin, is when you have a trusted third-party custodian of the Bitcoin saying, yep, we've got it. You can let this person do all this fun stuff as a leverage, advantage to holding this Bitcoin. That's exactly what we're headed towards, but it's just not here yet. Yeah, but when we get there, all the insurance products you can imagine will be right there along with the financial products. They'll be
popping out there. So, well, with I guess then we can say, with Trump coming in, that is likely to be sooner rather than later. They'll pave the way for that custody.
Well, here's how it will happen first. The federal government will offer insurance to the banks. Yeah, that's ultimately where the insurance backing comes from, right? Is how does a mortgage ultimately end up? It ends up being insured by Fannie Mae or Freddie. Yeah. It's government. So what we'll find is that the government will offer insurance coverage to the banks. The banks will then in turn offer limited coverage to you, just like the FDIC does right now to each bank account. I don't know what it is now, $250 or whatever. Yeah. So they're going to come to you and go, hey, if you deposit your Bitcoin with us, it's covered up to $250,000 in Bitcoin. And you're going to go, okay, well, that's one great perk. What's the second great perk? And they're going to go, well, you don't have to pay insurance. We're offering insurance on property and casualty for free. And you're going to go, oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'll put my that's what's coming around the corner for sure.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, last week, it was about this idea. I had mentioned, that there was the Trump effect on the initial surge coming out of the range. And I had a couple of people who I don't think they really understood what I was talking about because they were like, well, how do we know it wouldn't have gone with Kamala? And how do we know this and that? Well, so real quick here, guys, just to explain what I'm talking about is the fact that once Trump really took off, right? It was like 105 to like 15 or something. It was 120 to 15 or 20 versus Kamala. It was about that time, just after that, where price in all the markets, not just in Bitcoin, but the other markets also started rallying. So when I say Trump effect, when I say the markets really liked that Trump was going to win, that's what we mean. Do we know if it would have gone up if Kamala did it? No, we didn't. But we do know that when there was a lot more surety in who was most likely to win, when the market felt like they were more sure about
we actually do know what the market thinks what would have happened if Kamala won. And I can tell you why we know. Because most of the time, these movements are priced in. Most of the time, the decision is not so nip and tuck, and the media hasn't portrayed it as such a tight race to where we kind of know who's going to win, or we got a pretty good idea of it, and everybody starts pre-buying or pre-selling into the decision. Yeah, that did not happen this time. Everybody was holding their water, scared to death, going, is this next 4 years going to be pro-crypto or anti-crypto? pro-taxes or anti-taxes. You know, all these things were sitting there at the precipice. And when you saw the dam starting to break, and exactly what Chris is talking about, I was watching both at the same time. And when Trump started when he would be confirmed one state, boom, Dow futures would pop, S&P futures would pop, Bitcoin would pop. So you're 100% right in the fact that the money that we saw entered only because Donald Trump won the election, period, the end. And that's what was enough liquidity to cause a feeding frenzy and cause the bump that we've seen and trigger the chain reaction and get us into price discovery.
Well, I think if anything is more incredible this year than the Bitcoin ETF inflows, which I think we all agree has been like one of the most just insane things this year, right? But it's the fact that crypto became such a big part of this presidential election in such a short time. Because I remember when it was first kind of a little bit of talk about it with Trump back in, what was it, March or April, they were like, yeah, maybe it might do something. You know, nobody was really convinced. And then by the time we started doing beards and Bitcoin and it started getting serious, you know, back in June, we just looking from there to now to see how crazy that got elevated just into the mainstream talk, right? I mean, it's absolutely insane how
you know who I credit more than anybody, and I don't think anybody has come out and said this, but I will. If one thing I have seen about Trump is he's a family man. He runs the government almost like a family business. I mean, I don't know if you've heard all the stories about how his entire family were in a lot of those meetings. And his sons and son-in-law are huge crypto people. And I think them chirping in his ear over the last 2 years finally got him to recognize and trust that there's something more than meets the eye. And he said something, Trump did, that makes me 100% that he gets the power. I have a friend of mine, and this was 5 years ago, and he put out a tweet one day, and he said he went to historic Black college, and he said if all the HBCUs all bought one crypto, just choose one, Dogecoin, whichever one, and find one that has a small market cap and take it over and start using it amongst each other for payments and for that, you could drive the price. It would be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You would drive the price so high because you would be able to force adoption through your populace, right? And if they all got together, you'd have millions of users. Every Black fraternity, every Black sorority would be using it. You would just have this network that decided this is money amongst us, and they would be the beneficiaries of other people having, if they wanted to do business with them, having to participate in that economy, right? And those other people having to participate drive the price up, which makes the original nucleus that much wealthier, okay? So you're talking about the same principle in Bitcoin, but at a much, much higher level with the U.S. government. If the U.S. government decides they want to drive the price of Bitcoin up to $5 million a coin, they can do it. And they can do it legally, whereas we can't do it legally. If the three of us got together and we had enough money and we go, hey guys, I got a really nifty idea. Let's just flood the market with buy orders at increments of 50 cents. And let's just put 1 trillion buy orders in to where it just there's just constant ladder to the sky. Every increment up, we'd only be spending 50 cents. But the incremental value to the stack that we hold would be what we're using to. So that's market manipulation. You can't do that. You can't drive the price up artificially of anything unless you're the government. And then you can. And you can buy as much of it whenever you want, however you want, in whatever increments, because you know why you get to do that? You get to say it's for the purposes of national security, and that gets you a free pass to do whatever the heck you want to do. And so do we have now an environment whereby which we could see all the rules of modern markets be broken right in front of our face because it's under the guise of national security. Yes, we could. Why do I know that? Because Donald Trump said out of his mouth, we'll just pay off our national debt with a little Bitcoin check. Did you see? Did you hear him say that?
Yeah.
Now, ask yourself the question: what does someone have to understand to say that? They have to understand that they have control of the price, right? Because if they if they could drive it to $5 million a coin and they own enough of it, they can pay the national debt off with a little Bitcoin check, like you said. So I'm not saying that's what he's going to do. And I'm not saying that's that's a pretty long shot. If you had said that 4 months ago, 6 months ago, we'd be looking at you like you're crazy. But these are things that are coming out of the man's mouth, and he's about to take office. So they have to be priced in from a speculative perspective is the point.
So what do you guys think? Coming up here, we get a pro crypto, pro Bitcoin president here now, and of course VP. So coming up in the next election, what do you guys think? Do you think the next one coming in has to be pro, or do you think they can get elected without being pro?
You think the cat's out of the bag now? Wait 4 years. There's no putting this cat back in. There will never be an anti-crypto regime on the earth ever again, because you would just be you'd be looked at, in my opinion, 4 years from now like North Korea, just cutting your people off to the world to spite them, like to take them out of the economic equation that they could participate in. At the pace we're running now, it'll be bigger than gold in 2 years. You know what I'm saying? It'll be on the top 5 list of global markets to participate in.
So what you're suggesting then is that the Democrats have figured out what they did wrong this time around and they're going to pivot?
No, I'm saying Democrats and Republicans both, they have to come up with stories that they think are going to resonate with the people. And they come up with those stories. And when it doesn't resonate with the people, they come up with different stories. And they are a slave to being popular. You know how burdensome being a slave to being popular is? You gotta figure out who you are every day. That's a tiresome endeavor. So they're going to come around is the point.
Well, I see a lot of social media accounts having to deal with that over the years. The three of us, we're just out there doing our thing. I don't know if any of us will ever get 100,000 or more followers, but
Well, 3 or 4 years ago, there were.
I hope not.
There were 1,000 tethered truthers running around on crypto Twitter. How many of those folks are left? 4, maybe. Yeah. That particular line of conversation is dead and gone forever, literally forever.
Tether is just absolutely insane, right? I mean,
it's insane, it's been lionized and integrated, certainly in Europe. I was told this a year and a half ago by SEC insiders that Tether was just untouchable, and the reason why it's untouchable is because it's a proxy for the euro, and the euro has been garbage for a decade. So
if you want to know there's this big, begging question that everybody has about CBDCs. That is the CBDC. Mark my words. Mm-hmm. That will be the CBDC. Mm-hmm. That will be the adopted CBDC across all global market, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. You want to know why it's my opinion, though? Because they did the smartest thing that any company could ever do and attach themselves to U.S. Treasury bills. When you do that, you become a really valuable customer to the U.S. government, and that's a good place to be.
Yeah. What was it? Warren Buffett's up there as well, isn't he?
He's up there too. He's on that list too.
He owns more treasuries than the Fed, I believe, right?
Well, when you support the U.S. dollar, they don't really care what else you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So I think the CBDCs you know, if there's any technology and company that's gotten it right in terms of backing digital dollars with real dollars, or, you know, treasury bill, whatever you want to call it, they're it, man. They've mastered it. And why wouldn't you want to take that formula and duplicate it across your nation state, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Man, oh man. Well, hey, this has been a great hour, guys. As always, love talking about this with you every week. Hopefully everybody else enjoys it as well. And even if they don't, hopefully they continue to come back.
Do you mind telling Andrew that just because it's called Beards and Bitcoin, it doesn't mean we just let our beards go. We have to actually trim them up and, you know, make sure.
That's for you to tell him. He said y'all were best friends. So
listen, this isn't a Gandalf competition, Andrew. Okay, we're not.
You shall not pass.
Oh man, it's always something with you guys, man. I'll tell you what. But you know, hey, hopefully we bring a lot of entertainment. We sure do try. We try not to make this a dry subject. You know, a lot of times economics and finance can be pretty dry. We try to have some fun with it, and you know, at the same time, you know, maybe it comes out that some of the stuff we say doesn't turn out to be true. You know, isn't what turns out to happen, right? But you know, again, we work with what we have, just like in trading. You work with what you do, and you know, you kind of see where it goes from there. So we'll continue to put out our ideas here as long as you guys continue to show up. Show the guys here some love. Follow them there on Twitter at AP_abacus and at TexasOL61. Tillman is so proud of me every time I get that right. I'm telling you.
I am.
TXWest Capital.
Listen, Chris, I thought the whole game is like I tell one side and Andrew tells the other, and then you take the neutral stance, so the show's always right. Isn't that what we're doing here?
Oh man, 23 episodes into it. Now we're figuring that. Okay, episode 24 next week. That's what we're gonna do. All right.
We can always point back to an episode and highlight just one of us being right, and that way we've got great content.
We always have it right? Hey, listen, really appreciate you guys as always. Hey guys, check out their website. Always forget if it's Arch Public, right? You guys, you gotta be.
I'm not helping you anymore, man. It doesn't. Well, it's consistent. It's been the same since the beginning. It's never changed, because that is the word consistency. By the way, it's Arch Public on Twitter or on X, and it's thearchpublic.com. And we're about to make a switch. We are about to switch very soon to archpublic.com, because we finally got the domain.
See,
so
you're just gonna keep.
No, listen. You can't take credit for it. Yeah, were you living in the future? You knew that when you've been messing up the last 6 months.
No, when you're there, you're there. You don't let people know you're there. All right. But anyway, yeah. So check them out, guys, and also check us out at members.texaswestcapital.com. If you want to trade, you know, if that's your thing, or want to learn a little bit more about markets and understanding. You know, how and why markets move the way they do and how to best approach them as a trader or investor, you can do that with us. Now, $97 a month gets you all our group coaching, gets you Fibos threshold theory, gets you our TWC Traders Club. My God, you guys, it's insane. We're more than a few 100% up over the last 2 months on the Traders Club. So really kind of rocking and rolling in there. Hope to see you guys there. Other than that, make sure you guys join us next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, as always. And, of course, I'll be back on my Friday market breakdown show, 11 a.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for showing up, guys. Really appreciate y'all, as always. Everybody else, well, I guess you guys too. Have a great week, all right?
See you guys.
Take care, everybody.